My friends, my people, a lot to unpack in today's market. In today's video, we've got a lot to go over. Number one, we had FOMC today. We need to take a look at the price action and where we're going to go from here. Second part is we had all sorts of earnings that came out yesterday and are still coming out in terms of Microsoft, Google, AMD. We need to look at the reactions of those to get a gauge of where the tech market is going. And then from there, we will dive into what I'm personally watching on my watch list so that we can get some shreds going. I've been telling you guys for days and days and days, catch last week's videos, yesterday's blogs, right? We're going to have a volatile day, and we definitely did today. Had a lot of interesting cross currents happening. First of all, let's just get into this. So, because of the earnings from Google, right? Because of the earnings from Google, we ended up getting a little bit dusted at the open, right? We had a gap down because Google was down about 15 points. It drifted a little bit lower throughout the day. We had a gap down in AMD, which actually recovered fairly decent for the most part. And so I thought that was pretty much a positive. But then Microsoft also, dude, you had this hot spike at the open, ran into the previous day's resistance, and then a nice fader here, closed down 11 points. You know, guys, in the scheme of things, even though they did not have a positive reaction to the earnings, being down 2% after you've basically gone up 25% in the last couple months is still pretty impressive. You know, even something like AMD, it got down to 162. I thought it had a pretty good reaction. To come in and almost close green was pretty good. But what we need to unpack is, the action that came in from the FOMC. We gapped down, and Powell started talking, and you know what? We started to actually cruise. So he got on at 230. In the beginning of his talk, the market actually cruised up. We ended up taking a bunch of longs, as the market broke out here. And thank God we just sold them real quick. I took some calls on the IWM when we broke over here, and a coin and all these things. And, it looked like, I added coin down here on the red to green support. But we had these awesome, 10 minutes of shred. Then it was done, right? And then we ended up having to flip everything. That was an intense day. There was almost too much volatility. FOMC days can be really, really tricky. So where are we going to go from now? That's the big question. So, right, once we unpack this, look, we did have some excessive selling today, but that's going to be the norm when you think about well, hey, we had FOMC today and we had all these earnings, so a little uptick in selling is probably the norm. What I want to see is how we react around this all-time high. So let me go back and just kind of switch layout so we can see this a little bit better. This is a weekly chart of the QQQ, right? And it looks like we're coming, if we come in and retest this, right? If we come in and retest this, how does that impact the market? Right now, we're just into the bone zone, right? So we're into a little bit of a zone of love. But what I want to see is that hopefully we get a little flush off tomorrow. How do we react around here? If we react well around here, right, and this thing gets digested up and then we kind of continue on, then I think that's actually really bullish for the market, for the next handful of months. But what we want to do is make sure this does not fail, right? This does not fail because that will put the whole kind of bullish phase of the market in jeopardy. We have the same thing with the SPY. We have 480. Dude, if we get diced under 480 and we start coming back into, say, the 50-day moving average, the 200-day moving average, that's going to be a big sell signal for the markets. I think that we'll have to keep that into account. So tomorrow, if we get a flush down and we retest the old breakouts, we got to nibble on some longs to start testing it out to see if it holds. If we just knife through it like it's butter, like it's not even there, right? It's like an invisible support, which that's when that, there's really no demand there, that it's just, we're back down into the range, right? It doesn't mean we're going to be a bear market, but we could start to enter into a choppy range, a chop zone, a digestion zone, where you distribute for a period of time near highs and you kind of digest all this move. And that, guys, those are really, really hard to trade. If you look back in the past, like when we've had these kind of digestion zones, they can go like this particular one over here, right? They can last for a period of time. They can go for months. And so we want to be careful when we do that. So we got to watch these levels. If we gap down, we're going to take some stabs, but we don't want to step in front. We don't want to step in front of too much stuff, right? So if it starts to break under, then we know, like, okay, we've got some direction in the market. Now, the good thing is there's a whole host of stocks here that we could trade that I think are going to be good for tomorrow. Let's just start from the top. An old butt plug here had a great day on this thing. I mean, if you can see here, you've got what we call like a W pattern. This is your classic kind of basing out or bottoming pattern where, you have something that obviously has been downtrend for years, and then you have a fake breakdown over here, and then you re-ramp it on excessive volume and come back and hit, the top of that base. If this thing can break out, let's say, we sit there and break out over 5. It may need a rest day, an inside day, but if say it breaks out over 5, I mean, that's going to give it, that's going to give us some nice cheddars right there. So let's add that. Old Rumble here got rejected at the 200-day moving average again. If it can break and hold over here, I think that this one's going to have probably a little bit of upside. This, company's obviously a huge gelatinous turd, but, for a trade, why not? Let's get into that. Fate, nice biotech. You had a big pop here on 8 million shares volume inside day, and then a break today. You got a lot of room here. So there's a gap fill right here. If you look here, right, this gap fill right here takes us to maybe about $10 or so. The volume's increasing. Biotech and kind of these health tech stocks, they tend to be a little bit more impervious to what is happening in your general market. So I think that some of those can actually be, pretty good, even if the Qs is getting dusted, like something like this, it can hold up. Old Boeing, this may be a bottom on this one now. We'll see how it reacts, right? You got the old W double bottom here. If we take out this neckline, which is your 200-day moving average, that should trigger it, back into, I wouldn't say up here, but we should be able to kind of back and fill, right, some of this area over here. Now, that's a good look. That's probably top of the list. Guys, I know sometimes we all get so focused on tech names that we forget, some of these easy ones. Look, I put this on the watch list yesterday. GM had earnings on, then it just kind of sat around because it used up too much range. And then you can see right off the bat, it went red to green today, right? First tick, right? Big pop, $2. If you can trade options on something like this and really take a nice shred. I think this has got more in it. You got a big base that it's going to be coming out of. And, if we start to test some of these zones, it may start to speed up over time. Old Zim did what Zim does. It broke out 15. Had an awesome little spike for $1 at the open. That's really all you can ask for. And then it does what Zim does. It usually kind of fades it back and fills it, and ended up kind of closing flat. I think this is still in play, but we do want to be a little bit careful. It does tend to like gap and crap or spike and crap. There is something weird going on with the price action on this name, and so we want to be a little bit careful on this one. Guys, I don't believe this is probably at the time to be holding some of these things overnight. We have a lot of cross currents. We need to see how we digest this kind of FOMC news that happened today. It did not look like Powell said much, but lo and behold, things were going down. So just something to kind of be mindful of. And this market is volatile. You can just day trade and have so much shred. I mean, look at what Levi was doing today. I mean, holy crap! Like, he was rocking and rolling. This is their options room here. I mean, this guy, he batted 100% on this bad boy today. Starbucks, Tesla. I mean, he was crushing some puss over here. Google. Look at these things. And these are good. If you guys got, you're trying to build your accounts or you're under like the PDT or anything like that, these options are a good way to kind of start growing these things. Look at this Walmart. Man, he was really on it today. Amazon into the close. You know, dude, that guy, he's tactical, he's strategic. I'll put a free trial link in, into the blog for you guys. But you guys definitely should check him out, even if you're in my boot camp or whatever. It's a great skill to have. ALGN, this one is actually having news after hours. It's earnings, revenue increase, shares rise after hours. Let's see how it reacts around this 200-day moving average. You got pretty good range over here. It's a low float stock. It's only 70 million shares. I think we'll have a chance on this one. We'll have a chance on this one too. And I really like this next. Check this out. This is an IPO breakout. Hopefully it pulls back a little bit at in the pre-market tomorrow. If we could get this thing to back and fill some of this, man, this thing could be a juicy McGee tomorrow. So I think we want to keep something like that on. I think we want to keep something like that on too. But guys, be careful of big tech tomorrow. Look, there were a lot of failed breakouts here, like on this snow, right? Failed breakout. If you look at just like kind of like what a lot of stocks were doing, Netflix held up pretty well for the most part. But look, Apple's been getting dusted. We'll see, right? It's got its earnings out tomorrow. We'll see if that 200-day moving average gets defended. Tesla's just being Tesla. It's been grinding all over the place. I think this one's untradeable for a little bit as it's just kind of stuck in a longer-term range here. NVIDIA held up okay. Like it dumped, popped, dumped. I mean, this thing is just, dude, it's really been hard to trade. So, I think Meta, a little bit of a dump into close. Frankly, the way the QQQs was getting decimated, you would think that these things would have all been down 4 or 5% or something. But they didn't, right? Like Amazon's just kind of back to support here. You got breakout, pullback. We'll see if that holds. Even AMD, the action today was very bullish on it. I mean, you gap down. You're down almost 10% at one point yesterday. You were at 160 in the after hours yesterday. To come in and rebound that, I think is pretty good. Even Microsoft, like, it'd be nice. I think what we want to look at Microsoft is about 385. I'd set an alert there. That's probably going to be more of your buy zone. And then Google, big gap down here. It may need to kind of settle into some of this range over here before you could take a look. It basically hit all-time highs and then gap down, right, because of the earnings. I think these big caps look okay. Netflix is obviously the strongest one out of the group, and it just had its earnings. But maybe, they're not easy to trade right now. I think we want to be a little bit careful tomorrow and just make sure. Let's just make sure that the Qs holds this all-time high breakout. If it does, then a lot of these charts reset. We'll have some fun with it, right? Now you'll have Google and Amazon and some of these things, Microsoft on a little bit of a pull. You don't have to chase them up when they're up 10 days in a row. Tomorrow is a day where you got to be just careful. I would not be overly aggressive. I'd focus in on some of these news plays like NXT, Plug, ALGN, and there's going to be a whole host of other, news plays out there. Because if we don't do that, we may get chopped up on some of these. We may get chopped up on some of these like big boys, right? If you look tomorrow, let's see what tomorrow is. Right? Bum, 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 bum. Let's see what tomorrow. I think we got what? Apple. Hold on here. There we go. If we go tomorrow before the market, you got Dev, RCL, that could be something. Peloton, that could be fun, right? So we have a couple of these lazy boys. CH sometimes moves. Honeywell sometimes moves okay. We've got a couple of these, who knows? Maybe the Goose Island. Dude, the Goose Island usually is all right. We've got a couple over here that I think could roll. So, be mindful of this. Like, there's going to be some plays, and then you got Apple after hours, too. There's going to be some plays that are going on here. And, if we're looking just, even after hours today, after market, let's go over here. After market, right? You got a whole host of these things. What I usually do is just put them all on the list, but I always want to make sure what the bigger ones are doing first. And then, go through the gappers. But I think like something like this next is going to be real hot if we can just pull back. a little bit. But I go through all these, man. I go through these one by one. I go through these one by one and just put them on a list, and then I also look for the gappers. That way, I just don't miss anything. But these are gonna be easier plays to do, right? And you want to focus in on really hot daily charts, right? The gaps. Usually, if it's a surprise beat on the EPS, those are usually a little bit saucy, a little bit juicy. And I think that might help too. But let's not get chopped up tomorrow. Let's see if those all-time highs hold, and then we'll have some fun. Peace. Oh yeah, guys, smash that like button. Let me know if you have any questions. I love you guys.